Since the 2022 Oscars, images and reactions involving Will Smith and Chris Rock have continued to resurface, fueled by new videos and unseen angles that regularly reignite the controversy. Recently, so-called leaks and clips presented as exclusive have been circulating online, while rumors have even suggested a tense backstage confrontation after the ceremony, claims that remain unverified to this day. In this video, we quickly go back over the entire incident, from the stage moment to the aftermath, to understand how it became one of the most viral moments in Oscars history. On March 27, 2022, the 94th Academy Awards was underway at the Dolby Theater in Hollywood. The evening started like any other high-glamour Hollywood ceremony, and the stars were in their seats. The cameras were rolling and millions were watching worldwide. Chris Rock, one of the most recognizable names in stand-up comedy, walked out on stage. He took the stage to present the award for Best Documentary Feature. That's when Rock turned his attention to Jada Pinkett Smith, who was seated in the front rows beside her husband, Will Smith. The joke was about Jada's shaved head, a result of alopecia, with Rock saying he can't wait to see her in a sequel to the 1997 film G.I. Jane, in which Demi Moore's character has a shaved head. The camera caught Jada's reaction. She was not amused. What happened next sent shockwaves through Hollywood and beyond. Will Smith walked on stage and slapped Chris Rock across the face during Rock's live presentation. The sound of the slap cut through the room. The audience froze. A stunned Rock tried to maintain his composure, saying, "Will Smith just smacked the sacked out of me." Smith, now seated, shouted back twice, "Keep my wife's name out your fingin' mouth." Live television broadcasts in the United States mostly muted the incident due to federal censorship laws, but there was a problem for anyone hoping to contain this moment. Uncensored international footage went viral on social media. An excerpt from the Australian broadcast became one of the most viewed online videos. In the first 24 hours, uncensored footage from that Australian broadcast pulled in over 50 million YouTube views. Within 24 hours, Google searches for alopecia, the condition Jada Pinkett Smith has, shot up by 600% overnight. The incident received worldwide attention and largely overshadowed the rest of the ceremony. But if you think the slap was the end of the story, it was barely the beginning. There were confrontations backstage, footage from audience members' phones, a formal investigation by the Academy, and a public feud that would play out across stand-up specials, music albums, social media posts, and reported private phone calls that went unanswered. Here's how every layer unfolded. To understand why Will Smith crossed that stage, you have to go further back than that single night in 2022. The tension between the Smiths and Chris Rock had been simmering for years. Jada Pinkett Smith and Chris Rock had a long history of interactions. The pair worked together on the Madagascar films. On the surface, they were industry colleagues, but beneath that surface, fractures had been forming. In 2016, the Oscars were engulfed in the Oscar So White controversy. The Smiths boycotted the ceremony and urged Rock, who was hosting that year, to step down. Rock didn't step down. Instead, he did what comedians do. He turned the boycott into material. In 2016, Rock mocked Jada for boycotting the Oscars, and sources suggest Smith had been still mad about those prior remarks. Leading up to the 2022 ceremony, Rock's 2016 joke about Jada boycotting the Oscars was a barb that clearly lingered. Years later, during his Netflix special, Rock recalled that exchange with unmistakable bitterness, noting that Jada had demanded he quit the hosting gig because Will didn't get nominated for his role in Concussion. The resentment on both sides was deeply embedded, long before the G.I. Jane joke was ever written. While presenting an award at the 2022 Oscars, Rock made a joke about Smith's estranged wife, Jada Pinkett Smith's bald head. The joke didn't sit well with Smith, as Pinkett Smith's hair loss is due to alopecia. Jada has gone public with her years-long struggle with alopecia, an autoimmune disorder that attacks hair follicles and can result in hair loss and balding. She had been open and vulnerable about this condition on her platform, Red Table Talk, and in various interviews. Rock's joke, whether written with that knowledge or not, struck a nerve that was already raw. She was visibly upset at Chris's comment, rolling her eyes from her seat as he defended the joke. Then Will stood up. The context behind the slap is layered with years of perceived disrespect, personal health struggles made public, and a marriage under enormous public scrutiny. None of that excuses what happened on that stage, but it all explains why the fuse was so short. And beyond the Rock-Smith dynamic, there was also the question of the Smiths' marriage itself. a relationship that was being dissected in tabloids and talk shows around the world. During an interview with today's Hoda Kotb, Pinkett Smith revealed they'd been separated since 2016. That revelation landed years later, in 2023, but the turbulence it represented was already very much in play. The night of the Oscars. The slap was not an isolated event. It was the eruption of something that had been building across multiple years, multiple public insults, and a marriage that was fracturing in slow motion. Under a spotlight neither party could escape. The seconds after the slap were captured from multiple angles, and every piece of footage added new dimensions to what the world thought it already understood. Additional smartphone footage was published on March 31st. From an audience member's perspective of the Smiths' table. This seems to show the reaction of Pinkett Smith during and after the joke, as unamused and rolling her eyes during the joke, but then seeming to laugh when Rock commented, "Will Smith just smacked the us out of me." That piece of footage alone reshaped the conversation. Was Jada laughing? Was it shock? The internet dissected every frame. Backstage, the scene was tense. Scott Feinberg of The Hollywood Reporter tweeted footage of Smith being pulled aside and comforted by Denzel Washington and Tyler Perry. During the commercial break, right after Smith smacked Rock, Smith eventually made his way to his seat and appeared to wipe tears from his eyes. Denzel comforted Jada, and Will's rep stood by his side. Immediately after the incident, Rock continued his presentation for Best Documentary Feature, which was awarded to the crew of Summer of Soul. Smith continued to participate in the ceremony and subsequent celebrations. Some in attendance were surprised that no actions were taken. Others wondered if Smith would be allowed to stay. And then came the truly surreal part of the evening. From his seat, Smith shouted his now infamous line. He then went on to take home the Best Actor award for his performance in the film King Richard. In his acceptance speech, Smith described himself as being a fierce defender of his family, just like Richard Williams, whom he portrayed in the movie. In his acceptance speech, he apologized to the Academy and other nominees, but not to Rock. Jaden Smith, the son of Smith and Pinkett Smith, tweeted after the show, "And that's how we do it." It's unclear if he was referring to the slap, his father's win for Best Actor, or both. Meanwhile, a single photograph became its own cultural artifact. Photojournalist Brian Snyder, working for Reuters in the projection booth, photographed Smith striking Rock. This photo quickly went viral, was featured in news stories, and was adapted into internet memes. He was unaware of the photo's cultural impact until after the ceremony. The Academy moved swiftly, but not swiftly enough for many. They charged Smith with violations of the Academy's standards of conduct, including inappropriate physical contact, abusive or threatening behavior, and compromising the integrity of the Academy. The Academy said, "While we would like to clarify that Mr. Smith was asked to leave the ceremony and refused, we also recognize we could have handled the situation differently." The incident led to Smith being banned from attending the Oscars for 10 years. The Academy's Board of Governors voted unanimously on the suspension. While Smith remains eligible for Oscar nominations, the ban only prevents attendance. The punishment was historic in its severity. No actor of Smith's stature had ever been banned from the ceremony. Smith issued apologies, first on social media, calling his actions unacceptable and inexcusable. Then, months later, in a YouTube video that attempted to address lingering questions, he said, "Why didn't you apologize to Chris in your acceptance speech? I was fogged out by that point. It's all fuzzy. I've reached out to Chris, and the message that came back is that he's not ready to talk. And when he is, he will reach out. So, I will say to you, Chris, I apologize to you. My behavior was unacceptable, and I'm here whenever you're ready to talk." He later added, "The work I'm trying to do is I am deeply remorseful, and I'm trying to be remorseful without being ashamed of myself. I'm a human, and I made a mistake, and I'm trying not to think of myself as a piece of Rock, on the other hand, stayed quiet. Painfully, strategically quiet. Days after the incident, Rock appeared at a previously planned stand-up stop in Boston. However, Rock did not fully address the slap then, saying, "I'm still kind of processing what happened. So, at some point I'll talk about that. And it will be serious and funny." Chris Rock declined to press any civil or criminal charges against Smith. The silence from Rock lasted nearly a year, and when he finally broke it, he did so on the largest possible stage. On March 4th, 2023, Chris Rock stepped onto the stage of the Hippodrome Theater in Baltimore. Chris Rock's Selective Outrage, streamed live from Baltimore, marked Netflix's first foray into live streaming. The hype surrounding the special was enormous. Everyone knew that at some point during the set, Rock was going to address the slap. The question was how far he would go. He went far, very far. Perhaps because Rock knew much of the audience who tuned in were waiting for just that moment. He saved it toward near the end of his set. For most of the hour, Rock worked through material on woke culture, selective outrage, the Capitol riot, and other topics. He dropped hints throughout. Early in the night, he joked, "They say words hurt. Anybody who says words hurt has never been punched in the face." Then, in the final stretch, he turned his sights directly on Will Smith. "I got smacked like a year ago, and people are like, did it hurt? It still hurts. I got summertime ringing in my ears." The crowd erupted. But Rock wasn't just addressing the physical act. He went after the entirety of the Smiths' public and private life. He named the title of the special as a direct reference, explaining that Will Smith practices selective outrage. The last 8 minutes or so of the special focused on Rock's reaction, with the comic unloading a deluge of expletives, while contending the slap was the actor's reaction to all the criticism he had taken for accepting his wife's very public affair. Rock addressed the 2020 Red Table Talk episode that had rocked the internet, where Jada Pinkett Smith spoke openly about her relationship with singer August Alsina. "We've all been cheated on. Everybody in here has been cheated on. None of us have been interviewed by the person that cheated on us on television. None of us." He accused Smith of misdirecting his anger. "Everybody called that man a B," Rock said. "They called his wife a predator, and who's he hit? Me. He knows he can beat." And in one of the most jarring moments of the set, Rock addressed Smith's 2022 film Emancipation. Rock said he was once a huge fan of Smith's, but the slap had him watching the actor's movies much differently. "Now I watch Emancipation just to see him get whooped." In the closing moments of his show, Rock joked that he chose not to engage with Smith after the slap because he was raised by his parents not to fight in front of white people. The reaction to selective outrage was massive, but its impact on Will Smith was something else entirely. Will is embarrassed and hurt by what Chris said about him and his family in his Netflix special. He didn't watch it, but he had people tell him what Chris said. A source told ET, "It's everywhere when you look online and on social media, so Will and Jada have seen comments about it." Smith reportedly feels like that's enough and wants Chris to move on, so that he and everyone else can too. Will is also upset that Netflix was a part of this and thinks Chris insulting Jada again is below the belt. But a source also told Page 6 that the disconnect between the two men ran deep. Will did call Chris last year after the Oscars, but Chris didn't pick up, and they haven't spoken since. Chris was open for a call until Will made his public apologies, and then all of those Red Table Talk discussions. Will's 2 public apologies were all about saving his own reputation. The source said that the comedy set was closure for Chris. The slap didn't just damage a friendship, it restructured a career. Smith's offers slowed, and insiders say people were passing on the once hot actor since the slap. His first major film release after the incident was Emancipation, the Apple TV Plus drama. Made for $120 million. It was bought by Apple TV for $130 million. The movie was given a theatrical release to allow it to be considered for an Oscar nomination, but earned just $3,000 to $4,000 per location during its opening weekend. Smith laid low for much of 2022 and 2023. His comeback strategy was gradual. Ahead of the release of Bad Boys, Ride or Die in June 2024, his team planned a big PR push. An insider said the film was Will's big comeback, and that he would deal head-on with the slap, and also address his marriage to Jada after she revealed in her 2023 memoir, Worthy, that they had secretly been separated since 2016. The Bad Boys sequel did prove that audiences hadn't given up on Smith entirely. The film's commercial performance indicated that audiences remained willing to support projects featuring the actor, providing evidence that his box office appeal had survived the controversy. Will Smith hit the LA premiere with his wife Jada, making their first public appearance in months since their separation bombshell dropped. Smith also attempted a return to music in 2025. His return to music with the album based on a true story marked his first musical release in 2 decades, but failed to achieve significant commercial success, selling only 268 copies in its first week in the UK market, and failing to chart on Billboard 200. He seemingly referenced the Chris Rock Oscars slap in a new freestyle, and the album itself contained thinly veiled references to the incident. Smith also faced significant backlash when promotional videos for his Based on a True Story tour appeared to use AI-generated or enhanced crowds. Social media users noticed odd distortions in faces and fingers, leading to widespread accusations that he used AI to inflate crowd sizes. Then there was the Paramount deal. Will Smith secured a significant professional milestone with Paramount Pictures through a first-look deal that positions his Westbrook Entertainment Company to develop franchise-oriented theatrical films. The agreement includes his wife, Jada Pinkett Smith, as a partner in the production banner. The deal signaled that at least some corners of Hollywood were prepared to rebuild bridges. Smith has described being out of line and has committed to working on himself, emphasizing his goal to be the best human I can possibly be. However, Chris Rock reportedly dismissed the apology, with comedy insiders noting a lack of true reconciliation between the two. Will Smith remains banned from the 2026 Oscars and won't return until 2032. The 10-year Academy suspension started April 8, 2022. The ban will not expire until April 8, 2032, meaning Smith is still 6 years away from being eligible again. The Academy has not indicated any flexibility or early release from the ban. Publicly, neither has indicated that they have rebuilt a friendship, despite Smith promising the pair would repair their relationship after the slap first happened. Nearly 4 years after the incident, the relationship between the two entertainers remains distant. But in March 2026, a new development surfaced that caught the internet off guard. Will Smith and Chris Rock may soon face each other publicly for the first time, since their widely discussed encounter at the Academy Awards. According to individuals familiar with ongoing conversations, the two entertainers are exploring the idea of a televised interview with ABC News. If the discussion moves forward, it would mark their first shared appearance since the 2022 Oscars broadcast. Neither Smith nor Rock has commented publicly on the potential interview, and ABC News has not released any official details about a possible program. A joint interview would create the first opportunity for both men to discuss the event together in a live conversation. The footage keeps surfacing, the angles keep multiplying, the fallout keeps expanding. What started as a slap heard around the world became a years-long saga, involving career destruction, public humiliation, a broken friendship, a fractured marriage, and now possibly a reconciliation attempt in front of cameras. Whether that interview ever happens, and whether it brings genuine healing or just more content for the internet to devour, remains to be seen. But one thing is clear: 4 years on, this story is not over. March 27, 2022, changed the trajectory of Will Smith's career forever. And the footage, old, new, and yet to surface, continues to prove it.